Szanowni Państwo, już mamy 5 minut po godzinie 12. Powinniśmy zacząć nasze spotkanie. Z tej strony Agnieszka Konik z Ośrodka Badań nad Totalitaryzmami z Instytutu Pileckiego, w imieniu którego chciałabym wszystkich powitać na naszym środowym seminarium naukowym. Witam naszych wszystkich uczestników, a także prelegentów. Dziś gościmy pana Antonego Vatcharadze z Institute for Development of Freedom and Information, który mieści się w Tibilisi. Pan Anton Vatcharadze jest archiwistą, historykiem, obecnie prowadzi badania nad pamięcią i dezinformacją. Dziś wygłosi nam wykład o tytule Dochodzenie do prawdy na temat represji sowieckich w Gruzji. Kontreferentem będzie dzisiaj pan dr Jerzy Rohoziński, adiunkt w Ośrodku Badań nad Totalitaryzmami Instytutu Pileckiego, autor wielu publikacji naukowych. Właśnie niedawno ukazała się jego kolejna książka, monografia pod tytułem Pionierzy w stepie, kazachstańscy Polacy jako element sowieckiego projektu modernizacyjnego. Książka ta jest dostępna w wydawnictwie Instytutu Pileckiego. Pan Anton Vatcharadze wygłosi wykład w języku angielskim. Wykład będzie tłumaczony symultanicznie na język polski. Na dole ekranu mają Państwo ikonę z podpisem Interpretation i jeśli ktoś chce skorzystać z tłumaczenia, bardzo proszę dokonać wyboru między językiem polskim a angielskim. Seminarium nasze będzie składało się z 2 części. Pierwsza to będzie wykład dopełniony komentarzem i rozmową między zaproszonymi naszymi gośćmi. Druga część to będzie dyskusja, podczas której będzie możliwość zadawania pytań na czacie. Proszę w miarę możliwości zadawać pytania w języku angielskim. Jeżeli będą zadawane w języku polskim, to potrzebujemy chwilkę czasu na przetłumaczenie. Zadane pytania oczywiście odczytam na forum. Zachęcam Państwa do zadawania pytań już w trakcie wykładu, gdy poruszane będą zagadnienia, które zainspirują Państwa. Bardzo proszę zadawać pytania w obszarze oznaczonymi literami Q&A, czyli Question and Answers, co oznacza pytania-odpowiedzi. Teraz chciałabym już oddać głos panu Antonowi Vatcharadze. Okay, Anton, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Agnieszka. Thank you very much. Kamar Jobam. How can you hear me? Is my voice clear? And okay, thank you. Thank you, first of all, to your center and to Dr. Jerzy Rohoziński, who is an old friend of ours, for giving us opportunity to participate and to provide our speech with you, with the Polish Institute, with Polish auditorium, and about a very important and interesting topic for our shared history and memory of it, which is like this horrible period in the rule of Soviet Union in Georgia for 70 years and a little bit less in Poland for about 15 years. Also, I'd like to thank Poland in general. While yesterday we have received a letter from the Institute of National Remembrance from IPN, and they will assist our side, Georgia. We are negotiating with them for 1.5 year already, and the archaeologists and anthropologists from the institute will have the search and exhumation works in Batumi, where first mass grave of Soviet terror of 1937-38 was discovered. About up to 30 people with Polish surname are buried there, and while we had no experience in it, IPN Thanks God, IPN, we asked IPN and they are coming in January and they will provide this work along with us and they will show how this work is done in general and then the next level, next stages we will plan and conduct by ourselves because this is the first grave, whereas several number of people were discovered, and there are for sure numerous other mass graves because in Georgia, totally in a small country, totally about 20,000 people were executed during the mass terror, and about 14,000 were exiled to Siberia, to Central Asia and other parts of the Soviet Union. So I'm a historian by occupation. I finished studies in Tibilisi State University, and for 8 years I worked at the archives as an official there, and then I got interested in this very interesting topic and of Soviet Union as well, history of Soviet Union, of Soviet repressions particularly. And today I work at the think tank organization Institute for Development of Freedom of Information, which aims and which works on the discovery of mass graves as well, on archival openness, on revealing histories of human histories, of personal histories of those people who were oppressed and who were repressed during that time, of those people who are still alive, and unfortunately our state doesn't care that much about these people. The victims of the repressed receive like ridiculous monthly living subsidy from the government. So we advocate for this change as well, and we publish articles about this and work in various directions. We have our educational program with the university, etc., etc. Today I want to talk and stress about the part of Georgian history which is which we are not very proud of. This is a personality and personality cult of Stalin, of leader of Soviet Union during the most bloody years, who was born in Georgia. I think all of you know about this, in a small township called Gori, and I would like to represent about how perception is still of this person in modern Georgia, how it affects general memory, how it harms our way to Europeanization of country, and how in general Russian propaganda and disinformation uses his image, his historical image in Georgia. So I would like to share now my screen with you. It's the article which I published recently is called "The Trap of History," Stalin, the Trap of History, and the presentation is prepared according to this article. You see here on the right left upper corner, there is a huge museum complex in the town where Stalin was born, in Gori, and this is one of the only, not if one of, but the only self-sufficient museums in Georgia. All the other museums are on a dotation. Government gives money for existence of these museums, but this museum receives only symbolic funding from the government, and it has really good income from Georgians, from our northern neighbors, Russians who come here, also from representatives of the other country. Children under 6 are not allowed there. Price for school students is 1 Georgian lari, which is approximately 30 cents. Price for regular ticket is much more. It's 15 lari, about 4.5 to $5. This is the official house museum in Gori. Historical Stalin in contemporary Georgia, a nostalgic requisite of politic mythology or creator of new tyrants of bloody terror. We will attempt to respond in my speech, his general image in Georgia today. He has like a lot of epithets in modern country. It's a bloody tyrant, it's a killer and a dictator who provided mass terror and who killed Georgian intelligentsia, etc. Also, he's for these people who you see on the right side who gather next to his statue, he is a liberator, he is a person who won Second World War and creator of modernization and social counter-modernization in the country. He's a person of frequent attacks by internal and external enemies. This is the agenda where our country still lives in. And this official museum, which you see the place, it's like a travel in time. So you go there and there are still artifacts from the 1960s, halls which tell us about his great deeds, especially in the World War II, also his yacht, his childhood, his later years. There is also a face mask which was taken from him after his death, and so on. According to the Carnegie Research Center, which operates Levada Center, which operates in Russia, according to the latest survey, about 45% of Georgians still think that he is the great personality and he was an effective leader. The very message that comes from Russian propaganda, who depict him as an effective leader in Russia as well, and the kind of person who modernized Russia and modernized world and helped fight against the greatest negative thing throughout the 20th century, fascism, and who defeated fascism and Hitler. So on the other hand, like we know about mass deportations, more than 1 million people who were killed, more than 4 or 5 million people who were killed in Ukraine during famine, etc. But even during that time, even when children of the enemies of the nation, of the traitors of motherland, who were exiled in Siberia, in Central Asian states, they were crying because while Stalin died in 1953, 6th of March, because 5th of March, because he was grieved him as a parent. He was one of those who killed their parents and sent them to Gulag, but he became as a surrogate father for them. And these disappeared parents in the mass terror during the Great World War, so-called Great Patriotic War in Soviet propaganda. The Stalin has somehow changed the image of their father. On the other hand, in Georgia, we have like law which is against displaying publicly the images of Nazism and totalitarian communism. This is also related with Stalin's image, with the hammers and sickles and all the other things, but this law was enforced actively and enforced effectively during the previous government, during the Mikhail Saakashvili's rule. The law is called Freedom Charter, and a lot of monuments depicting Stalin, Lenin, and other Soviet things were removed from the public spaces. But it was made forcibly, not with the consensus in a general public. So after Saakashvili was defeated and his government was changed by a new government, some people in local municipalities, in the places where Stalin's monuments were before, they have changed and they have re-erected their monuments. You see one of them, the upper corner, it is in southern Georgia in village Zikilia, the right one in Kwemu Alvani, and one you see the souvenirs market with the Stalin image in Gori, in his hometown. Also, Jerzy and others who have been, who knows Georgian culture, you know how supra and how Georgian traditional feast is in our country, how powerful social thing this is. So you see here on the left some monk with holding glass of wine in his hand, and very strange and interesting icon of the Yalta conference, from the Yalta conference, where Roosevelt, Stalin, and Churchill, all of them are like beatified by this let's call it religious sect. On the right side, it's people who some people who drink Stalin's toast. They always do it standing pose, because it's like a respect towards the leader. But on the other hand, some of the people and part of the society who were not agree with the erection of Stalin statues, they made like a flash mob to paint all the Stalin statues throughout Georgia, and you see like the one of the pictures is very interesting on the lower left corner with this 20% band. 20% is stressed about the occupation of Georgian land totally by Russia, which still continues. Our historical regions of historical and recognized by whole international society, Abkhazia and Ossetia or Tskhinvali region is still under control of local powers backed by Russia. So some people repainted that, but these images, and totally there are, according to our count, about 12 Stalin memorials still in Georgia. These images are still there. And for example, elderly people in Zenu Alvani village, you see on the right, there is Stalin statues erected on the place where also victims of the World War II are depicted from this village. So they say that they will let Stalin's removal only after their corpses and their bodies. So local and central government, they won't go to open confrontation against these villagers. Not the 100% of these villagers agree on this, only the elder people. So they the statue is still there, unfortunately. It has also very interesting historical background, all of these kind of things. Stalin died in 1953, as you know, and in 1956, Khrushchev made his very famous sacred speech against the cult of Stalin, and this was a trigger for re-evoking Georgian nationalism in that period. So In Soviet Union Soviet Union and Bolshevik Russia occupied Georgia in 1921. Before this, we had like a brief period of independence of 3 years of independence. And in 1924, there was a big uprising against Soviet Union. But after this, after suppression of this uprising and massacre of people there and execution of more than 1,000 those who uprised, that time Georgia became like a part of Soviet Union, and nobody was like eager to demonstrate something, because then mass repression started, you know, and it was very dangerous. And in 1956, after this secret speech, which was against Stalin, and there are like rumors that this secret speech there is Stalin's birthplace. Georgia was especially stressed. People came into streets, and it's a paradox. It's also why we call it the trap of history. It's a paradox because some of the young, very young school children, pupils, students, they were children of the repressed, of those who was shot by Stalin's direct order, in Stalin's list, which he signed personally, every list. And these kind of people who are repressed under Stalin's list are more than 3,600. And children of sons and daughters of these people, they came out into the street to defend Stalin's name, because his name became some kind of an image of a changer of this nationality, as a producer of the nationalistic nationalism in general. But this events this week was also suppressed in blood, and more than 20 people died during these events, because Soviets suppressed them with tanks, with military servicemen, and there are like rumors that some of these young people were thrown directly into the Mtkwari River in central Tbilisi. And also we searched a lot of in archives, and there are almost all the documents are destroyed depicting these events. But according to memories, we know that their parents and their family members were not even allowed to bury them properly, and only few people like attended their funerals of these people. But it's a very, very strange part of our history, when the tyrant was defended by people who were like whose fathers and whose relatives were persecuted by the same tyrant. This was the propaganda at that time, and this is one of the biggest phases of propaganda and agitation in Soviet times and in Soviet Union. But also this modern basis of modern Stalinism, and of those young people who even didn't live during Stalin's time, we have to search it in several places. So this museum, which is created according to Catherine Godwinson, to solidify one truth and reject the other. So these people who are still pro-Stalinists, let's call it pro-Stalinists, they are victims of the complex of the small nation. Let's call like this, because in Georgia there were no single ruler who was so powerful. This is a fact. He ruled almost 1/5 of the whole world at that time. Won Second World War. Young future monk who was born in a small township, Gori, and this is depicted as a pride for some of the people. The second one is like a general anti-Western and anti-liberal agenda and direct propaganda from modern Russia that all of you, what are you told, it's not truth, it's fake. And this liberal society, they want to erase everything what was in the history, and they want to produce us with their own version of history. So, and also this very popular saying is that Stalin didn't knew about mass repressions. On the other hand, we have documents and we have publications where we clearly show that he knew it very well, and he even signed and he even like put some of the people out from the list. And the third one is the general social and economic situation in the country. For more than 30 years, we are drifting towards Europe. We have also some significant progress in this thing, like because, for example, we can simply travel to Europe without any visa and come back and be there for from 3 up to 6 months in per year. But for many people, this is not translated at the pocket in their own money, and they can't afford to go to Europe to work. For example, in Poland, also there are like a lot of Georgian workers are coming to Poland, to Germany, to other countries. But for some people, they still consider themselves that even those who are traveling there and traveling in European states and working and coming back with money in his pocket in homes, they still consider themselves that they are like slaves of this general liberal agenda of the capitalism, etc. Because according to also some fake news and propaganda, so everybody was happy in Soviet Union. Everybody had his or her own job, and they lived a sufficient life there, which is not true actually, and especially during 20s and 30s and also in late 80s, it was not that good in the Soviet Union. The 70s was like one of the best period, especially for Georgia. But late 80s, after Perestroika has started, and also start of Soviet Union in general, was not that easy period for Georgians, and the country was starving as the whole other part of Russia was starving as well. Let's go back to museum. According to historian Lasha Vatcharadze, this museum is the example of the attitudes people in our country have towards history. Generally, we are in absolute obscure relationship with history, and we are unable to rethink it. And that tiny room of repressions, which is today located under the stairs, is just pulling the wool over the eyes. Let's talk about this room. This room is what Lasha Vatcharadze mentions. It's about the repressions. It is a small room that you can mention. Nobody mentions there if you don't know, and most of the visitors don't go there because it's located under the staircase, and some pictures of repressed writers and famous Georgian people are there, also some letters and documents. But the general attitude towards museum is still sacralizing Stalin's name as it was during Soviet time. Lasha Vatcharadze also offers how can we remake this museum. The free spaces, which are still a lot in the museum because it has a lot of artifacts, but still there are places there should be transformed as a alternative story. It should tell us alternative stories on repressions, on Soviet terror, etc., etc. and the observer should like make his own decisions, which is right and which is true in this regard. Also he suggests to leave the artifacts as it is and to leave the general places in museum as in 60s, like to see how primitive Soviet propaganda was that time, because it only gives us positivistic point of view. Regarding the repression, so I mentioned the starting point that local bishop and local eparchy, our organization IDFI and Institute of National Remembrance of Poland we have to start archaeological excavations in near Batumi. Batumi is the second largest city of Georgia on the seaside of the coastal city of Black Sea. So there's an eparchy, police side, and non-governmental organization with like few employees. There is no government because government pays almost no attention on history. It's for them. It's like a tool when they want to use it, especially, and not the everyday thought. So for the victims of repression, so here you can see our survey about it in made in 2020. For the about 10,000 repressed people in Georgia, there is ridiculous. About €2 per month. Yes, this is exactly €2 per month assistance living subsidy for them. It's the lowest in the country. Despite our attempts to change this situation and to ask them for rising up this amount, government tells us that they have no money for this. And the most sad thing is that every year about from 700 to 1,000 people are reduced from this 10,000 from this amount. You understand, because they are in their ages, and also adding this situation with the coronavirus. So in some next 10 or 20 years, there will be no people left, or single ones who were victims of repressions, and they will receive still this 7 lari. This is ridiculous, and this is not that big amount of money to raise this. But state's attitude towards its past is like this. They still allow some people who still admire Stalin to erect statues, and on the other hand, those who were victims of repressions, they received this kind of ridiculous living subsidy. What else can we tell about this? That there is one very interesting quote by the chief, by Stalin himself, that he told to, as if he said to Molotov and Golovanov, I can't prove that this statement is right, or it's a historical fact of, or documentally proven, but still many historians tell that these words are said by him. That mistakes where we had success as well, right? The mistakes will be ascribed of me. It's natural. My grave will be thrown garbage, but the time will come when the wind of history will sweep away that garbage. As archives opened since 1990s, and when we see and when we discover all these graveyards, etc., there is a lot of additional garbage on Stalin's graveyard, and we see how this regime was dealing with his citizens. And this amount of this garbage is raising and raising. Is it repressions, mass terror, execution of people in Katyn, for example, etc., etc., and the draconic laws which were like signed by him. On the other hand, for example, the modern Russian Federation and Kremlin propaganda, whose leader somehow reflects Stalin's personality and, according to many scholars, identifies with him, tries in every way to prevent the opening of archives. This case is similar in Georgia as well. There are still people who in the government whose probably fathers and grandfathers were actively involved in some bad things during Soviet times, and they also prevent opening archives in Georgia as well. But still, the wind of history is invariable. The study and this kind of dualistic attitude towards the personality and cult of Stalin will not lose actuality in the future, and is likely to remain the subject of constant controversies for the next generations to come. Until this kind of a social dualism is overcome and one position is not formed, there is a need of discussion and reanalysis, which hopefully our generation and future generations will be able to cope with success and based on the general humanistic ideas and ideals. So this was briefly about my presentation. I think it was 40 minutes time. Yes, Jerzy, or have I still more time left for my presentation? Should I finish on 15:40, I suppose, or 15:45? Jerzy, are you here? Can you hear me?
Tak, słyszę Cię doskonale i jeżeli chciałbyś skończyć, to ja w takim razie mógłbym wygłosić parę słów komentarza i jednocześnie...
Okay, so one more point I want to add to my speech about what depicts his cult and the story. What is this about? This is a picture of the huge statue which was erected in central city of Gori, in the very center of Gori. So this is one statue on the right side. It is rather smaller, and it is erected inside the museum. It's still public space, but government left this small statue inside the museum garden. Also, you see on the left side, upper corner, there is a pedestal which was prepared by the locals to re-erect this statue. There is a very interesting story regarding this statue that in 2011 it was removed at night without any prior discussions and any wide discussions in society by Saakashvili government. At night they came there by the technique to remove this statue. They even closed in every city. We have like city cameras, and in 24/7 you can go there. You can go to internet and watch how it is, how it's going on in one or other city, and how people are moving, their cars moving. So it's like cameras, and they even covered it with something not to show people. They throw a huge police forces in the region to avoid protest, and took Stalin statue in one night and put in one of the religious private properties near Gori. This is also interesting. This is Gori is a town near Tkhinvali region, near southern Ossetia, so-called southern Ossetia, which was the playground for Russia-Georgian war in 2008. And there is also one very interesting story that our Minister of Internal Affairs was asking and was offering $50,000 to Russian military aircraft pilots, and this is a fact, he told it in the interview, that to blow up Stalin's statue in central Gori, because it was like a big skeleton in the closet. So you have it, you want to remove it, but you also want to harm anybody's feelings there, and you still need electoral voices because there are frequent elections in Georgia. This is a story about these modern statues that this is Zamolwani village, which gives approximately 700 electoral voices, which is when the Alwani is a really big village. They want to receive at least half of it, like 350 or 400 electoral voices. And because of this, this statue is still there. So everything this time is converted into this kind of things for governments. Naturally, when tourists come, when people, especially from Poland, from Germany, and from other countries, which is in which totalitarianism is people overcame totalitarianism, and there is no word that somehow, for example, Hitler's museum should be in his hometown, in his small hometown as well. But Germans come here and they see that Stalin's museum is still in Gori, and they have very strange feelings, I'm sure, about this. And I have conversated with some Germans, with some Polish people who are like in shock when they see that one of the bloodiest tyrants of 20th century is still in this position for some of the Georgians, and this some of the Georgians are more than 40%. There is also an anecdote regarding Gori and regarding Supra. Supra is our traditional Georgian feast, as I remember. Usually you know about who is Tamada, a toastmaster who offers some thoughts to other people as well. And once in Gori there was a feast where some Germans also came, so they were like as a tourist, but they somehow got on the Georgian Supra, on Georgian feast, and some people started to drink Stalin's toast there, and then they looked at the Germans and they said, "Oh, so let's drink for Hitler as well." So this is a real anecdote, and real story based on real story. So this is a general scope of the story. He's still here. He's laying on the ground, face down, but unfortunately, there is a frequent threat that he will come back, and he will come back in the central city, and there is also a very, very bad thing that, according to European parliamentaries, according to some people in Europe, our government is somehow moving with small steps, but still moving forward to Russia and getting closer and going away from Western values, from the European values, and this is the biggest challenge to overcome today. And everything this Stalin link face down frequent try from various people to re-elect him, and frequent try from various people also to go back to this under Russian coverage. everything is interrelated, and it's a constant struggle between one part and the other. Okay, thank you very much.
Bardzo dziękuję Toni za arcyciekawe wystąpienie. To były wszystko rzeczy, które myślę no, w Polsce są mało znane, może tylko wąskiej grupie osób, które przyjeżdżają do Gruzji, które są miłośnikami tego kraju, no ale to grono się zresztą stale powiększa i myślę, że będzie powiększać. Ja bym zaczął od takiego komentarza. Proszę Państwa, w Gruzji Instytut Rozwoju Wolności Informacji, który reprezentował nasz prelegent, jest obok organizacji SovLab, Soviet Laboratory, to jest skrót. To jest dwie wiodące organizacje pozarządowe, think tanki, które, jak mi się wydaje, w Gruzji są głównymi orędownikami procesu rozliczania się z przeszłością, ale rozliczania się nie na zasadzie odwetu, tylko po prostu na zasadzie dochodzenia do prawdy poprzez chociażby udostępnianie materiałów archiwalnych z przeszłości. Organizacja naszego prelegenta realizowała duży projekt, którego efektem był taki bardzo solidny raport na temat wolności dostępu, też profesjonalizacji archiwów w przestrzeni postsowieckiej, zwłaszcza tych archiwów resortowych, czyli związanych z represjami. I to jest o tyle, bym powiedział, sytuacja charakterystyczna, bo wydaje mi się, że w krajach postradzieckich musimy pamiętać o tym, że to w gruncie rzeczy nie środowiska akademickie czy zawodowi historycy, naukowcy, tak samo nie zawodowi archiwiści w sensie instytucjonalnym jakby dążyli do ujawniania prawdy, ale to środowiska intelektualne, w których oczywiście byli także i historycy, i archiwiści, ale to nie były instytucjonalne uczelnie, czy akademie, czy archiwa, tylko były to środowiska typu memoriał. Tutaj nieprzypadkowo przypominam o tej organizacji, właściwie całej instytucji, która jest w tej chwili w Rosji delegalizowana, bo w jakiejś mierze chyba wszystkie organizacje działające w przestrzeni poradzieckiej poczuwają się do jakiegoś związku z memoriałem, w jakiejś mierze czują się jego spadkobiercami. Oczywiście dzisiaj rzeczywistość wygląda inaczej i organizacje rządowe, pozarządowe działają w ramach grantów, które muszą pozyskiwać od różnych donorów. Ten projekt Instytutu dotyczący wolności dostępu do archiwów był realizowany z grantu Instytutu Społeczeństwa Otwartego Sorosza. Wiem, że z kolei Soviet Laboratory dostawało granty niemieckie od organizacji DVV niemieckiej. To były rządowe niemieckie pieniądze. Ja rozmawiałem kiedyś z dyrektorem tego DVV, który powiedział, że Niemcy dlatego finansują takie organizacje jak of lab, bo sami Niemcy rozliczyli się z przeszłością i usiłują tego uczyć innych. No jest, bym powiedział, dosyć dyskusyjna teza, ale taką Niemcy mają filozofię i właściwie pozostawało mieć wtedy tylko no jakiś, nie wiem, żal czy niedosyt, dlaczego Polska nie angażuje się w tego typu projekty. Dziś słysząc o tym, że współpracujecie z naszym Instytutem Pamięci Narodowej, no należy temu przyklasnąć. Miejmy nadzieję, że inne polskie instytucje, choćby nasz Instytut Pileckiego też będą się do takiej współpracy przyłączać. Ja teraz chciałem jeszcze zadać naszemu prelegentowi pytanie. Ono właśnie wiąże się między innymi z tym, co mówiłem o memoriale. Właściwie w Polsce temat gruzińskich rozliczeń z przeszłością, on zaistniał dość wcześnie. Jeśli dobrze pamiętam, w roku albo pod koniec lat 80. za sprawą filmu Tengiza Abuładze Pokuta. On był u nas puszczany w naszej telewizji. No jest to film gęsto bardzo nasycony symboliką, dość trudny w odbiorze hermetyczny, więc właściwie można było wysnuć wniosek, że te rozliczenia są rzeczą trudną i niełatwą w Gruzji. Teraz jakbyś mógł w kilku słowach powiedzieć, jak początek tych rozliczeń właśnie jeszcze w epoce pierestrojki, jak to w Gruzji wyglądało, no i też jak na tym zaważyło pożar, chyba nieprzypadkowy, archiwum KGB, co dość utrudnia mocno ten proces.
Yes, very good question, Jerzy, sorry if I didn't clarify many things, but the time for speech was not that much, and for a general public, some of the things should be more clarified, because yes, you know our history very well, and but people don't, unfortunately, and we are trying to our existence of our direction in the IDFI is exactly for this, to spread this word for more general public and not for only scholarly society. Yes, this interest towards past was it's always very strong in the Georgian society, and especially in since 1980s, especially this somehow appearance and the mention of the old politicians have started, according to various sources and various memoirs. The first mentions of the people who were politicians of the first Democratic Republic of Georgia, we call it period of 1918, after the collapse of after October Revolution in Russia, when countries gained independence, some of the countries from the empire, including the Georgia, Azerbaijan, and Armenia in South Caucasus, and Georgians declared independence on the 26th May of 1982, and but in March 1921, after exactly 1028 days, Soviets came back, Bolsheviks came back and reoccupied the country by force. And almost 1 month battles and 1 month war was held between Bolshevik Russia and Georgia. And for 60 years, almost, firstly in 20s, you can see a lot of caricatures and a lot of mocks about the members of the First Democratic Republic, and many fake news, including that they took a lot of money and gold into exile, and etc., and depicting them as traitors and enemies of nations, and also all those people who were left in country were executed in 1937. All those people who were active and who were active politicians of the First Democratic Republic. And after 1937, especially, these names of those people were forgotten totally, and they disappeared from everyday agenda, from news, etc. And they continued their living in exile, mainly in France. But some of them were also in United States, in Great Britain, in Argentina as well, in Iran, etc. And in 80s, if you see early 80 newspapers, some of the names of these people still reappear. So they started regaining their faces and their identity. And in late 90s, after collapse of Soviet Union, all the archives, these people who went into exile, the members of government, up to more than 500 people, they took also all the archives with them. And in late 90s, early 2000s, these archives were came back to Georgia, and we received the opportunity to start re-establishing the truth, historical truth, and reusing these direct documental materials to reconstruct the real history. And we see that this country was with the big democratic values, and First Democratic Republic was not that bad country like Soviets painted to us. Jerzy, you mentioned Repentance, filmed by Tengiz Abulazad, which was a shock for Georgian society. It was not Georgian, only Georgia, but for the whole Soviet society. If our attendees don't know, it's about the woman who digs out the corpse of the Soviet communist official who was involved in repressions, deportation of her father, and who deported her father, and she swears that she won't give Varlam, his name is Varlam, won't give free grave, like won't give peace in grave as well. And he digs out his corpse several times and brings back to his family. And there are a lot of interesting images. First of all, this Soviet high official Varlam looks very like Beria, and he's like a collected personality from different people, but mainly he looks like a Beria, Lavrenti Pavlovich Beria, who was Minister of Internal Affairs of Soviet Union, and before this he was like first secretary of Georgian Soviet Socialistic Republic, and he was one of the architects of master in the Soviet Union. But what we see in the film also, their image of there are like many backward stories, like how these communists start their work. So they start as a grotesque, as a funny personalities, like that nobody are paying big attention on them, and they are like a humoresque persons. But then, time by time, they became a tyrant, and this is one of the most unique phases of tyrants. So first they start as comedians, so like very funny faces, and then they became what they became. So this was about Hitler as well, about Stalins, that nobody was paying that much attention of them, and they were like in the shadows. But then when they came out, they showed their real face. This is in these films as well. And also the interesting story about film is that it was finished in 1983, but Central Committee and the Censorship Committee won't allow director to show it. And it was shown only in 1987 after Minister of Foreign Affairs, Eduard Shevardnadze. Then he became second president of Georgia in 1995, I think, or 1994, and he allowed Tengiz Abuladze and the crew who make this film to show it publicly, to reveal it, and it was like a big shock. So I think that Shevardnadze was very visionary politician. He already knew that Soviet Union will collapse soon, and this will be one more additional push to collapse the Soviet Union. And he led Georgian director and Georgian actors to make this one of the final pushes towards the collapsing Soviet Union. So I strongly recommend to watch this film. Those who didn't do it, it has many images. It has like, I won't spoil any other how it finishes, but you will see. So it has many grotesque faces in it. It mocks great repressions and terror. For example, the accusation of one of the victims is that he planned to dig a tunnel, railway tunnel from London to Bombay. Can you imagine? Like, so this is a, and if you really see it, and if you really go through like documents of 1937, 38, many accusations against ordinary people were similar, like digging a tunnel from London, United Kingdom, to Bombay to India. Okay, Jerzy.
Dziękuję panu, Anton. I don't see any, nie widzę żadnych pytań od publiczności, ale ja mam pytanie do naszego referenta, pana Antonego. Mianowicie mam takie pytanie, czy te tematy, które zostały dzisiaj poruszone, mianowicie i sowieckich represji, jak również gloryfikowania Stalina, czy one są wykorzystywane w bieżącej polityce Gruzji? Szczególnie być może instrumentalnie w kontekście relacji Gruzji z Rosją. Dziękuję.
Yes, it's very strongly related to the politics. Of course, there are some right-wing parties and political actors. I won't call them that they are like very strong today, but they have kind of a certain their own electoral voices, and they have their online and other kind of televisions, and glorifying especially Soviet past is one of their tools. And we know, and society knows, and it's even documentally proved sometimes, that they are backed by Russian politics. They are financed by Russian politics. I want to show you one picture now, one photo. One moment, I have to search it in the internet. Yeah, so this and I want to share my screen as well. This is one of the recent pictures of one of these right-wing politicians, and actually he has a lot of money, several $100 million. His name is Anton Vatcharadze, and this year in 2021 he has this meeting with Alexander Dugin. If you don't know who it is a main propagandist and main ideologist of restoration of Soviet Union in Russia. This man with the long beard is a philosopher, and he's one of the apologists, and he depicts collapse of Soviet Union as a tragedy, and he somehow translates it, the Kremlin's view, into his words. He's not official person, but he's influential politician, and he Kremlin can't openly say that he wants to recapture all the countries from Soviet Union. It's not declared as a politics, as an official politics, but this man declares it in his speeches, in his public writings, and in his pamphlets and documents. And you see, he has frequent tea drinking and wine drinking in Moscow with Anton Vatcharadze, who is the financer of right-wing politicians and right-wing groups in Georgia, and actually who also made these anti-LGBT protests in central Tbilisi on 17th of May, and especially this year on 5th of July, when these groups also freely started to violate people's rights in central Tbilisi. They kicked people, they harmed, and they beat journalists in the streets, and in the end, one of these journalists died after this, after 5th July of 2021. And unfortunately, our government not supported them, but they made a green light towards this group to come out to streets and to make this kind of riots against the demonstrants who were who were in the streets who wanted to make a peaceful demonstration against gay rights violations. So it's very interrelated, and especially Russia works and plays on these Georgian, how to say, this positive attitudes towards Stalin, uses and instrumentalizes its history via their agents of influence, including this man, Vatcharadze, and others. So yes, it's still in political agenda. Parliamentary parties, they declare the Stalinization. They are not people there who admirers, but when it comes to suppress rights according to law of these groups, our government says no word, and this is a very how to say, very bad tendency for last years. Okay.
Dziękuję bardzo za tą odpowiedź. Nie pojawiły się pytania od naszych widzów, słuchaczy. Jerzy, czy jeszcze chciałbyś tutaj na koniec coś dodać, czy możemy już podziękować panu i zakończyć nasze seminarium?
No ja przede wszystkim jeszcze raz chciałbym podziękować Toniemu za to wystąpienie. To są cały czas, wydaje mi się, tematy i rzeczy mało w Polsce znane i dyskutowane, aczkolwiek no, mają one swój duży ładunek taki symboliczny, no bo w końcu mówiliśmy o miejscu, które było matecznikiem Stalina, tak? To właściwie jeśli można tak powiedzieć, przenośni, tam się wszystko zaczęło. Znaczy, oczywiście też nie chcę przez to twierdzić, że Stalin jednoosobowo jest odpowiedzialny za cały system sowiecki z jego ludobójczymi praktykami, bo tak nie było, ale no, jakiś spory ładunek symboliczny w tym jest. Ja sam pamiętam, że byłem właśnie zszokowany. Tutaj była mowa o tych wsiach, w których stoją jeszcze pomniki Stalina. Akurat wtedy pracowałem w naszej ambasadzie i jedna z organizacji, to była zachodnia organizacja pomocowa, ale chciała, żebyśmy wsparli tam remont przedszkola. Tam było takie przedszkole, ale takie właśnie przedszkole w architektonicznym stylu takiego sowieckiego klasycyzmu. To są takie kompletnie dysfunkcjonalne budynki, więc tak naprawdę moim zdaniem nie ma sensu remontować takich budynków, tylko trzeba by je zrównać z ziemią i zbudować jeszcze raz, ale tam przed tym przedszkolem stał właśnie całkiem duży pomnik Stalina, to było pod Gori. I no ja się pytam, przepraszam, to akurat byli ludzie z Zachodu, którzy nas, no można powiedzieć tak, chcieli trochę na to naciągnąć, ale pytam się, proszę Państwa, ale jak sobie Państwo wyobrażacie, że polski ambasador będzie przecinać wstęgę pod pomnikiem Stalina? No i było właściwie, znaczy jakoś mnie to poraziło i zszokowało, że właściwie dla żadnej z tych osób to nie był szok, nie było w tym nic dziwnego, nawet spojrzeli na mnie trochę jak na wariata. Jedynie przedstawiciele ambasady Japonii wykazali się tutaj dużą wiedzą, którzy też z nami mieli to współfinansować i z kolei tutaj ambasador japoński spojrzał na mnie z takim zrozumieniem, a jednocześnie taką troszeczkę miał w oczach taki wyraz: Boże, jak ci ludzie z Zachodu nic nie wiedzą. No i niech to może będzie podsumowaniem naszego spotkania, ale jeśli mogę jeszcze, chciałbym wszystkich zachęcić do i studiowania kultury gruzińskiej i historii, nie tylko z punktu widzenia represji, bo też nie tylko represje stanowią część historii tego pięknego kraju. My z polskiego punktu widzenia też chciałbym powiedzieć, że o ile w Gruzji nie ma Polonii jako takiej, nie ma zwartych miejsc osadnictwa polskiego, ale zadziwiająco duża liczba osób ma polskie korzenie, to znaczy jakąś tam część krwi. To się tłumaczy tym, że mnóstwo Polaków było w XIX wieku zsyłano do służenia po prostu w wojsku na tak zwany ciepły Sybir. No i siłą rzeczy za tymi Polakami zsyłanymi podążali też inżynierowie, którzy dobrowolnie tam wyjeżdżali. Krótko mówiąc, byli to mężczyźni, którzy czasem na miejscu zakładali rodziny, więc nie ma jakby Polonii jako takiej, ale jest zadziwiająca duża liczba osób, które mają jakąś tam część kropli krwi polskiej w swojej rodzinie. I też, jeżeli już jesteśmy przy represjach, to warto powiedzieć, że Polacy, czy te osoby właśnie z jakąś tam częścią polskiej krwi były w Gruzji. Operacja polska NKWD właśnie skierowana przeciwko tym osobom była obok greckiej jedną z pierwszych narodowościowych operacji w Gruzji, także warto się tym interesować. Tutaj dzięki współpracy IPN-u naszego z archiwum MSW Gruzji wydano zbiór dokumentów na ten temat, ale to co chciałbym jeszcze może dodać, to że w gruncie rzeczy studiując te dokumenty, my nie zdajemy sobie sprawy, no bo mamy nazwiska, jakieś spisy, właściwie co to były za osoby, a tutaj na przykład mogę dodać, że wśród tych ofiar był Henryk Hryniewski, to jest postać w Polsce mało znana, a szkoda, a to był współtwórca Akademii Sztuk Pięknych w Tibilisi. Gruzini, pamiętajmy, są narodem artystów, więc to ma swoje znaczenie. Też w Tibilisi, w samym centrum, jest mnóstwo budynków, które tworzyli architekci narodowości polskiej. Są w Bibliotece Parlamentu Gruzji są piękne freski tego Hryniewskiego. Mało tego, jest nawet ikonostas ze świętą Niną, czyli apostołką Gruzji, no największą świętością w jednej z cerkwi, to jest właśnie dzieło Hryniewskiego, także też warto studiować historię Gruzji, bo jest tam mnóstwo niespodziewanych zupełnie śladów polskich. I na tym bym może zakończył.
Pojawiło nam się pytanie. Pojawiło nam się pytanie, czy mamy jeszcze na pytanie czas? Jeszcze tak, jak najbardziej. I would like to ask, what do you think about the Museum of Soviet Occupation in Tbilisi?
Yes, thank you for the question, Magdalena.
Community between that there is a continuity between the Soviet period of today's Russians policy towards Georgia.
Yes, very good point and good question. First of all, about the museum, it was really made in a very short period of time in 2000s. I think it was in 2006 when it opened, and after this, many researches and many historical documents and sources came into scientific circles. So first of all, I think that the general scope of this museum and its logic and its numbers there and statistics should be renovated, because some of the data there is not very accurate. Let's start from this, and it definitely needs, the exhibits should be changed. Actually, there was one of the exhibits, and we have a very good relation with the Georgian Museum, Georgian National Museum, and there was one of the exhibits I will show you now, also, which IDFI has changed and gifted to the museum. So you see there is about, this is a stand about Gorgasliani organization. Gorgasliani is the organization where two national heroes, or future national heroes of Georgian state, Sviat Gamsakhourdia, first president, and Mirav Kostava, dissident and the greatest fighter against communist regime. They were members of this organization, and only their names were mentioned on the stand. And the son of Metreveli, one of the members of organization, he asked us to renovate this stand, because there were totally 9 people there, and all of them were mostly very important. And we made the research in the former KGB archive. You see on the right side there are pictures of the members of organization who were imprisoned at that time for a short period, and they were released. Also, two additional members whose these cards were of Guram Dochanashvili and Guram Skirtladze. Their cards were lost in this archival item. So we renovated, and we are present. If you will go to the museum next time, you will see this renovated stand and exhibit of Brodowski organization. And this still needs the whole museum, this approach, because some of the UN numbers, especially numbers, are not accurate there. And the museum depicts only like one side, and its main message is that how poor we were all the time, and how writers and how we struggled against the bad people. So it's like depicting so-called good people against bad people. So it's, on my point of view, it's very, very propagandistic in this way. I think it needs more deep understanding of the system. It needs also to depict torturers as well, to depict the other side. For example, depict also the people who started as a torturers, and then they became as repressors, and then they became repressed. Also starting from Beria and continuing to Koblidze, Kobulos, and others who then became repressed as well. To show especially young people who go there, skilled people, students, that if you start as a collaborator to foreign power, to evil empire, to Soviet power, then you will become victim, that your good life will be very short term. Regarding what you mentioned here, the continuity between Soviet period and Russian policy, yes, it's obvious. Russia only considers us and considers Georgia as a place where they can come, where they can, not everyone, of course. I have a lot of friends in Russia as well. A lot of great people live there, for sure, but some major Kremlin, pro-Kremlin propaganda depicts us that it's like a sunny country when you can come, when you can eat barbecue, drink precious wine. But when it comes to like when Georgians start to ask for more, let's call like this, when we want our independence, when we want our self-esteem, when we want mutual understanding and mutual appreciation by then it's a problem. They want Georgia only as their playground, only as Georgian people as their like how to say people who were like sing and dance and like say toasts. And this was in Soviet time as well, and this is unfortunately today. They don't treat us as the same as they are. Thank you.
Dziękuję panu bardzo za odpowiedź. Nie pojawiły się nowe pytania. Myślę, że możemy na tym zakończyć nasze seminarium i bardzo ciekawą dyskusję. Bardzo dziękuję naszym gościom za udział i podzielenie się z nami tymi wszystkimi bardzo ciekawymi informacjami, które rzeczywiście inspirują do dalszych poszukiwań i dowiadywaniu się o historii Gruzji, jak również o tym, co się tam współcześnie dzieje. Bardzo dziękuję naszym słuchaczom za udział i już teraz zapraszam na nasze kolejne spotkanie. Nasze seminarium kolejne odbędzie się również w trybie online 24 listopada o godzinie 12. Naszym gościem będzie doktor habilitowany Andrzej Zawistowski, profesor Szkoły Głównej Handlowej i pracownik Ośrodka Badań nad Totalitaryzmami Instytutu Pileckiego. Wygłosi wykład na temat aprowizacja jako narzędzie polityki totalitarnego państwa. na przykładzie Polski lat 1945-1953. Tak, Antony, chciałbyś coś powiedzieć jeszcze?
No, thank you very much for this opportunity, Jerzy. Thank you, and I hope we will have an opportunity to meet you personally while now we are coming back to normal life after this COVID nightmare. And please send me this video as well. We will probably publish it on our sources, if we may. And thank you for this opportunity again. And thanks again, Poland, for everything, for what are you doing for us, to ITN again for this exclamation work which they will provide in January. And we have received yesterday this official letter. And you really are very important for us. And come to Georgia next year or this year. Thanks.
Dziękuję również, dziękuję bardzo i do zobaczenia za tydzień.
Dziękuję, do widzenia.